The protagonist is the 666th resurrection of the Demon King, and that's why he was nicknamed 666. His dark companions depend on him to get out of hell, but instead of helping them, 666 changes his name to God and forges a new identity to live among humans. The story begins by telling about the last battle between the Demon King 665 against the warrior of the Pure Clan. Things ended as usual. The hero sacrificed himself to defeat the Demon King and save the humans. The world returned to being a peaceful place again. The only certainty everyone has is that this story will keep repeating itself. Again, a new Demon King will arise and a new hero will need to destroy him. The demons from deep underground have been eagerly waiting for the new Demon King to rise up and free them from the dungeon. A few years have passed since the defeat of the last Demon King. The scene changes to a castle located in the demonic realm covered in black magic. A guard arrives desperate to speak to His Majesty. He kneels down and reports that 666 has fled the demon realm. His Majesty asks what he is talking about, and the demon guard soon shows a letter left by the Demon King. In letter 666, he said that he stopped being the Demon King and asked the idiots not to look for him. The scene changes to a few hours later in a quiet place in the capital of the Green Kingdom. A white-haired guy looks admiringly at the Akoma castle in front of him. This is our protagonist named 666. He gets so excited to meet a human castle in person that he starts jumping with happiness, but something at the top of the castle is not very nice for him. 666 hates the cross placed by the current king. At that moment the castle guards notice his presence and ask who he is. The protagonist prefers not to identify himself as the Demon King and decides to forge a human identity. He soon presents himself as God. Suddenly a loud voice shouts, asking how he dares to speak the name of God in vain. The man asks if the protagonist doesn't know he's in the capital of the Green Kingdom. That man is the commander of the castle guard and his name is Bruo. He advises the protagonist to leave immediately if he doesn't want to get hurt. 666 just asks if the Green Kingdom is strong enough to accept him as king. The commander is furious to realize that the protagonist has not only insulted the name of God, but also wants to take the kingdom for himself. At that moment he decides to finish off 666 and shouts for the other soldiers to attack, but at the same moment his face is hit. The guards look scared at the commander. 666 continues the attack using black magic, and several soldiers lose their heads. The protagonist did not leave a single man alive. The soldiers of the tower of the castle start shooting arrows, but 666 creates a protective barrier and comes out unharmed, then attacks all the men in front. The bodies fly out leaving a red trail on the ground. The protagonist walks over the bodies while saying a prayer. On the other hand, inside the castle the guards run to the king and tell him what is happening. Suddenly a noise at the door catches everyone's attention. The guards turn around and see the protagonist break the door with just a snap of his fingers. 666 uses black magic to consume all the men in the place, except for the king. The soldiers' bodies are corroded and they scream for help. 666 looks at what happens in front of him carefully. The bodies begin to explode and he gives a satisfied smile. At that moment a man exuding a powerful aura appears amidst the corpses. He holds a sword while saying a sacred prayer. The warrior asks God to destroy evil, and then removes the sword from its scabbard. He jumps towards the 666 with the blessed sword, ready to destroy it. The protagonist observes the light that emanates from the man and asks if he is part of the Pure Clan that he has heard so much about. The warrior replies that he does not know who the invader is who broke through the defenses of the castle of Akoma, but he knows that he has to destroy it because he uses black magic. 666 realizes that until that moment no one suspects that he is the Demon King. The warrior answers his previous question and says that he is not from the Pure Clan if he cannot defeat a threat. He advances with the sword towards 666, leaving the path destroyed, but the protagonist stops the attack with his hand easily. He holds the blade while asking if that's all there is to it. At that moment 666 imitates the warrior's prayer and asks the man which one god will listen to first. The warrior did not expect such a great boldness. The protagonist takes advantage of the man's distraction and hits his chest with his hand, then withdraws his heart, and tells the warrior never to mention God in front of him again. The man falls and 666 looks towards the king. Some soldiers make the protection and the protagonist is surprised to still have people alive. The king angrily asks if it's just a man. He thought his army was being attacked by a gang of criminals. The king realizes the danger of the current situation when he only has the last line of defense to protect him. He then takes a deep breath and asks the protagonist who he is. 666 smiles when he realizes that he found the king of the castle and says that he only came to talk. The guard interferes with the preserve to ask how he dares to address the majesty inappropriately. The protagonist points at some men with his finger and they are hit, then looks at the remaining guards and asks if there is anyone else who wants to complain. The men note that the magic of 666 is also accurate at long range and prefer to remain silent. At that moment, the protagonist shortens the distance between the king and appears in front of his face in a matter of seconds. The king gets scared and starts saying that he will give anything the boy wants. 666, he didn't think it would be that easy. He laughs and asks the man to give him the kingdom. The king shouts that this is impossible. The protagonist is upset because the man said he could ask for whatever he wanted. So he threatens to wipe out the king and claim the royal family as his own. In this way the kingdom will naturally become his. The king gets it wrong and thinks that 666 is there for his daughter. The protagonist replies that he doesn't even know who his daughter is and is not interested in anyone. The king says that his daughter April is the pride of the continent Horsens and the flower of the royal family. The protagonist says he doesn't need anyone's daughter. What he wants is the royal family. The king asks why he should deliver something that is not his. 666 looks angrily and asks if everything here belongs to the king. The man replies yes. The protagonist's eyes turn red and his wings reappear. He asks the king if this kingdom has been his since creation or if he took it from someone. 666 accuses him of sitting in this chair for all these years living an easy life and says it's time to resign. The king tells the protagonist that the Holy See will never recognize him even if he renounces the throne. 666 bursts into laughter when he hears this. He is so furious that he leaves the castle on fire. An explosion happens and the protagonist looks at the king consumed by the flames. He realizes that it was very easy to finish off this guy. Then he comes to the conclusion that the king was not part of the pure clan. 666 looks at the sky and tells God that he is disappointed. These guys were not prepared at all to facing him. After saying this, a white light invades the burning castle. The protagonist tells himself that it will take a while for the pure clan to awaken. After all, his return to the human world should be in 20 years. Now he is upset that there is no one in that place who can be worthy of a duel. At that moment 660 thoughts are interrupted by a female scream. He looks towards the sound and sees a girl crying. She asks 666 several times what the hell he is. The scene shifts to the past after the demons lost the first battle. The survivors saw no choice but to move the demon king's soul to a new body. They poured all the magic and curses on him for 100 years. Thanks to this, the birth of the new demon king happened and triggered the second battle. The demon king reached the apex of fury to invade the earth, but came across another hero powerful. Then the demon king was again defeated. But the demons did not give up and resurrected their king 100 years later. History repeated itself several times because another hero appeared. This happened 665 times. The demons were confident that the story of a hero who saves the world would finally come to an end after the protagonist's resurrection as a demon king. After 666 was declared the new king, the demons believed that the day would soon come when he would bring suffering to all of humanity. But the protagonist escaped from the demon realm, leaving only a letter behind saying that they were idiots. He fled with the aim of integrating into human society. The scene returns to the present moment. The girl screams, calling the protagonist an evil wizard and asking what he did to her father. 666 doesn't understand who this crazy woman is. Suddenly a memory of the king talking about his daughter invades his head, and he realizes who the girl is. 666 calls her Princess April and says that she should be next in the line of succession. The girl asks why he is saying this. At that moment the protagonist snaps his fingers, casting a spell on April. She falls to the ground hypnotized and says that she will be his servant from now on. 666 flies to her and says that he already has his first human. He holds her by the chin while saying that she must leave before her eyes are gouged out. Suddenly the conversation is interrupted when a purple slit appears near them. A voice speaks that it cannot go unnoticed by their lord. A man dressed in purple named Alex comes out of the rift, then says that his loyal servant is ready for service. Protagonist angrily asks if he followed him here. Alex replies that he couldn't let him go around like this. 666 replies that Alex served his father, not him. The man replies that this is the new form of the demon king and he must follow his lord wherever he is. The protagonist says that Alex must leave as he will not return to the demonic realm. The servant replies that he will follow his orders and says that now he can continue what he was doing. 666 asks what he means by that. The man then points to April and asks if the protagonist wasn't planning to plant his seed in her. Alex even gets emotional to say that he practically raised 666. He was his mother, and also his teacher when the Demon King needed an education. He was faithful even when the protagonist was placed in the cocoon of awakening. 666 is surprised and screams asking if it was Alex who trapped him there. Alex continues to say that he has taken care of the Demon King since he was a baby and now gets emotional when he sees him grown up liking a woman. 666 tells the man to stop nonsense and says again that he will not be the Demon King. From today he just wants to live like a normal human being. Alex smiles saying that he will not interfere in his decisions. 666 finds it suspicious and the man asks why he is suspicious of him. The protagonist starts hitting Alex and says that he is sure he would not let him live a life in peace like that. Alex screams asking if there is any reason for the protagonist to invade this particular kingdom. 666 doesn't understand what he's getting at. Alex says he has to be right. Maybe the Demon King felt affection for this land, or maybe he was just in a bad mood. The protagonist is thoughtful and replies that he doesn't have any particular reason. His desire is to live like a human and thought it would be good to be the king. Alex claps his hands and says that this is why he is the king of demons. 666 fled the demonic realm and invaded the human realm, defeating the royalty and taking the princess. This is exactly what a demon king would do, but Alex also understands that the protagonist wants to live as a human, so he says that now that 666 has abandoned the position of demon king, he will take his son and return to the demonic realm to raise him as the demon king. The protagonist does not understand how Alex came to the conclusion that he would have a son. The man keeps saying that if the protagonist cooperates, in 20 years his son will be the demon king and will be able to command the kingdom of darkness. 666 looks at Alex and then turns his face to the princess. April still has his eyes fixed on him. The protagonist quickly composes himself and says that he can't have children because he's only 80 years old, so he has to enjoy his youth. Alex tries to convince him to change his mind, but 666 sends a bolt of lightning in his direction and yells at him to be quiet. Alex dodges in time. The bolt is so powerful that it travels several meters, destroying everything it passes through. The protagonist complains that Alex is trying to trick him into taking him to the demonic realm, while 666 complains Alex realizes that the protagonist's demonic strength is not yet complete, but he is already capable of it. This makes the man sure that 666 has surpassed all predecessors. Alex feels that now the demonic realm can finally beat humans. At that moment the protagonist says that Alex is right and being king may draw too much attention from humans, that's why he changed his mind. Alex looks at the boy with hope, until 666 says that he will now be a warrior. The servant does not believe that the protagonist wants to be exactly what defeats the demonic kingdom every 100 years. 666 changes his mind and says that he will be the companion of a warrior. He thinks that this way he will be more discreet. Just choose a random guy to be the warrior and follow him. The protagonist is happy with his perfect plan. Alex asks him to come to his senses and remembers that if there is no demon king, there will be no warrior. 666 just says that they need to find a warrior urgently. The guy starts to leave and Alex asks what he should do with the princess. The protagonist tells him to deal with it. The man gets angry for having to solve everything himself, but knows that he needs his power to achieve his goal. Then he casts a spell on Princess April and apologizes for it. Alex takes a different form and says that he is sure that the Demon King will forgive him as well. The scene changes to a little later. The protagonist is lying comfortable while Alex drives. The guy complains about using horse-drawn carts when they can fly. 666 replies that he doesn't want them to find out that he is the Demon King. Alex points to the burning castle and says that maybe he can hide his true identity if he stops doing it. The protagonist replies that it's not time to blame him, and the servant questions if he really plans to be a warrior's companion. 666 happily replies that he does. He wants to use a warrior as bait and just hunt monsters like an ordinary human until he adapts to society, maybe even get rich. Alex replies that it will be difficult to be rich in a human society. The protagonist says that they will stay behind the scenes eliminating some dragons or something. He is sure that attacking will not be difficult for a king and a high-ranking servant of the demon society. Alex is not that confident. The protagonist asks if he knows how human society works. The man replies that they are divided into levels, such as Class A, Class B, the best are Class D, known as Dragon Slayers. The protagonist is surprised that it is enough to eliminate a dragon to earn this title. Alex says that currently dragons are neutral between humans and demons. This means that those who receive the title of Dragon Slayer are recognized as very powerful. But there are also the giant assassins and lich assassins. The protagonist asks confused why there is so much class. He got lost in the midst of so much information. Alex replies that there are still other levels that he does not know. It seems that it was decided by the Warrior Management Division of the Holy See. There is also the F class, where the defective are. The upper classes are sponsored by the nobility or the kingdom. The defective receive no support. They are seen as nuisances by society. The protagonist says he didn't know that humanity could also be so cruel. Alex looks at him and says that there is something more important to a warrior than his class, born pure. The protagonist gets excited about this conversation and asks if this refers to the Pure clan. Alex replies yes. 80 years ago the warrior and the saint were the first two saviors of humanity. They had children and the generations spread throughout the world, creating a sacred bloodline known as the Pure. People are tested and the purer their red liquid is, the stronger the aura they can manifest. The one with the purest red liquid becomes the final hero who will fight the Demon King. In all 665 battles the hero has emerged victorious. The protagonist understands why it is so important for humans to have a pure bloodline. He gets angry because it is thanks to this rivalry that he has been imprisoned for 80 years. Alex replies that it is the duty of a demon king. 666 says that this idea has caused problems in the last 66,500 years, so now he just wants to have a simple life as an ordinary human. 666 lies down in the wagon while looking at the sky. Suddenly a butterfly passes close to his face, and he asks what it is. The protagonist is so enchanted that he says they are like flower petals coming to life. Alex looks out of the corner of his eye and replies that this is called a butterfly. The animal lands on the protagonist's finger and a strong wind begins to blow. The animal flies and Alex observes how 666 looks like a child playing. The protagonist asks what it was that happened and the servant says that it is called wind. 666 remembers that since he entered the human world, he has felt this cold air pass through his body. This has never happened in his 80 years in the demon world. He turns to the sun and asks what is that circle that hurts his eyes when he looks at him. Alex answers all the questions. The protagonist asks how the servant can know so much. Alex replies that it is part of the reincarnation of the 7 demon lords to be born to serve the king. 666 looks around and says that he likes this place. He asks if the other demon kings have never experienced this. Alex replies that normally the demon king should only reach the human realm after 100 years. As soon as they step here they are defeated by the heroes. 666 is happy to have escaped 20 years in advance. He is sure he will be better off here than as Demon King. Alex looks back as if judging his attitude. The protagonist lies back in the wagon and says he is going to sleep. So the servant must drive to the right place because the two will not get out alive if they return to the world of demons. Alex replies that he understands. A few minutes later the servant wakes the protagonist from his sleep and warns that they have arrived. Alex says that they are in a place without much trade or military presence as 666 requested. It is a small and distant village called Zorix. The protagonist replies still sleepily that the place is not bad at all. They start walking among the residents and Alex warns that there are only 2 clans here. An A class that almost approaches the G class, and another that is almost over. The protagonist asks if there is no D class here and Alex replies no, they would be lost if there were any dragon slayers here. The protagonist is surprised and asks if the D class is that strong. Alex replies yes. Suddenly their attention falls on some villagers who were talking to each other that Treyer's nearby castle was attacked by a dragon yesterday. The red-haired woman warns the men that the dragon is still around and they shouldn't think about traveling to Treyer for now. The guy in the blue blouse replies that he thought the dragons had gone extinct. The protagonist asks Alex if he hadn't said that dragons were neutral. The servant replies that it's been 80 years since he set foot here. so something must have happened in that time. A few minutes later, the two finally find an inn to rest. The owner welcomes the new customers and Alex asks for the best suite. On the outside the owner seems friendly, but on the inside he tells himself that he is sure that these rednecks don't have money to pay for a good suite. Suddenly Alex shows a chest full of treasure that he stole from the Akama castle. The owner realizes that he has made a bad judgment and yells at his employee to prepare the room for the guests. The clumsy worker ends up falling halfway, but soon gets up and introduces himself as Zeke van Holivik. The foreman starts to climb up with the bags while Alex says that he saw that the whole village is talking about the attack on Traer Castle. Zeke replies that the guests don't have to worry because the village has a prestigious hero clan here. They are almost G-class. Alex says he understands. Zeke quickly opens the room and presents the best suite in the Golden Inn. He says he will be available if he needs anything. At that moment the protagonist interrupts him and asks if he is from the Pure clan. Zeke replies yes. 666 assumes that the bloodline was not strong enough because the guy works in an inn instead of becoming a warrior. Zeke agrees with him and the protagonist asks how pure his lineage is. The boy reveals with shame that he is class F, that is, a defective. Suddenly an explosion takes over the inn and Zeke jumps away to defend himself. The protagonist looks at the ceiling that was ripped off and realizes that they were attacked by a dragon. The villagers start running while shouting that a dragon has appeared in the village. Zeke asks the guests to run away. Meanwhile, the protagonist questions again if Alex hadn't said that the dragons were neutral. Alex defends himself by saying that he heard this 80 years ago. 666 says that it's okay because this is the best time. He looks towards Zeke and says that he will be his sponsor. The protagonist explains that he has been looking for a warrior and it seems that fate has brought them together. If Zeke accepts his offer, he will receive wealth and will never be called a defect again. In addition, he will no longer be class F. The protagonist's words take Zeke to the past and he remembers when he was a child. His brother always asked why they were despised even though they had pure lineage. Zeke also went through a lot of hunger in his childhood with his family. When he grew up, he thought he would never have an opportunity, but at that moment his mind changed when he heard the offer to follow by the protagonist's side. He kneels down and thanks for the opportunity. Zeke also says that he will do his best not to disappoint his sponsor. 666 smiles happily when he realizes that it was very easy and tells Zeke that now they will work together, then tells him to get up to get that dragon. Zeke asks with fear if it is not but safe to start with a goblin or something. 666 replies that before starting they must do one thing. With the help of magic, the protagonist writes a contract. The contract basically says that Zeke must completely obey all of 666 orders. Only the protagonist can rescind the agreement and Zeke cannot raise any objection. The riches will be shared according to the desire of the contract owner. 666 warns that they will continue together from the moment Zeke signs the agreement. The poor boy realizes that he will not have so much independence, but the riches part fills his eyes and he decides to sign the contract anyway. The protagonist smiles and says that now they are going to get that dragon. Alex reminds him that not just any human can eliminate a dragon. 666 replies that Zeke will be watching while they do all the work. His plan is for Alex to finish off the dragon and leave it in front of the defective boy. Then the defect will wave the sword on top of the dragon's body, and everyone will think that he was the one who defeated the monster. Poor Zeke likes the plan until he realizes that it was called a defect. Alex reminds the protagonist that Zeke belongs to class F. People will find it suspicious if he defeats a dragon. 666 looks at the poor defect with shining eyes. The guy asks how he can help and the next moment his clothes are torn off. The protagonist takes a pan and uses fire to make the circles where Zeke's eyes will be. The poor boy is only in his underwear and with a pan on his head. 666 nicknames him a masked warrior and says that now they can rest assured because he will not be recognized. Alex says he will take care of the dragon. Meanwhile, Zeke is surprised that they will still follow that crazy plan. The protagonist looks at the boy and realizes that he is missing something. He then takes a broom that is lying on the ground and throws it at Zeke. 666 tells him to stay here and wait for the dragon to be defeated. Those words were enough for Zeke to feel more confident. An unknown force runs in his hands and he tells himself that he can end anything. Zeke was able to awaken the warrior spirit from the bottom of his veins. The heroic instinct of the pure bloodline woke up. Usually this awakening would make a warrior instinctively want to destroy the Demon King. The protagonist stops in front of him upon realizing that something different is happening, but Zeke had no idea that 666 was the Demon King. even because the protagonist introduced himself as God. The boy also didn't know that that feeling was the awakening of the pure lineage, so he just thought that that feeling was given by the protagonist himself and thanked him. 666 patted him on the back and called him a pet. Meanwhile, the residents of the village try to escape the dragon's attack. Alex comes out of the rift and realizes the terrible situation. The dragon also notices his presence. The servant decides that he can't waste much time and uses his magic to launch several attacks at the same time. The monster advances and seems unharmed after the attacks, but in fact Alex's magic was directed at his heart. At that moment he warns the dragon that he has his heart in his hands, so he must not resist his commands. Alex takes the opportunity to ask the monster why he appeared in this place. If humans and dragons reached a peace agreement a few years ago, suddenly a strange purple octopus appears from inside the dragon and catches the attention of the servant. He realizes that something is wrong when the monster manages to say a few words. Alex complains about the dirty words said by the monster. Meanwhile, Zeke observes the commotion from afar. Some residents appear at the window of the house and notice the boy. Then they begin to wonder who he is, and someone says he must be a warrior, but another person disagrees, saying that there is no way a warrior can go around wearing only underwear. Zeke is very embarrassed and the protagonist advises him to move on. The boy looks at the villagers thanking them for the crowd and tells himself that it is time to beat that dragon. Meanwhile, the monster continues to cause problems to Alex. The servant realizes that it is difficult to control him, and so he will use another alternative. Alex attacks with the 100 demonic hands, and tries again to put the dragon in a prison. His plan is successful and he uses the heart piercer. The dragon screams in pain. At the same moment that strange purple octopus prevents the heart from being pierced, suddenly the monster says that whoever should be a corpse has been resurrected. Then its tentacles fly towards Alex's face. The servant is thoughtful about the words he heard and soon understands what happened here. Meanwhile, the protagonist follows the attack and wonders why Alex is taking so long to defeat this monster. He wonders if the servant is trying to knock down the dragon with his fists instead of black magic, but soon notices that that thing is starting to fall and tells Zeke to get ready. The boy must hit the dragon with the broom at the moment he is about to hit the ground. Zeke obeys and looks at the monster. At that moment the dragon opens his mouth, letting out a big roar. Zeke is sincere and tells the protagonist that he is afraid of being destroyed. 666 bursts into laughter and tries to reassure him, saying that as long as he is here nothing bad will happen like him. The boy is more motivated listening to this. He holds the broom handle, saying that he can. Meanwhile, Alex is being consumed by that purple goo with tentacles. The servant uses his 100 demonic hands to remove that thing from his face, but the purple octopus also uses 100 tentacles to counterattack. Alex realizes that if his hands are stopped it will be very troublesome, but he doesn't give up and keeps repelling the monster's attack. Alex grabs the octopus and pulls with all his might towards the ground. The protagonist observes that the dragon is getting closer and closer towards the ground, and says that maybe he should slow down a little to spare the corpse. Alex continues to fight the purple goo. Meanwhile, the villagers shout that the dragon is coming. Zeke prepares to attack, but at that moment the protagonist realizes that something is wrong. The dragon is flying normally instead of falling. He looks, trying to understand if Alex didn't follow the plan, but realizes that the guy is being attacked by something purple. On the other hand, Zeke tries to encourage himself by saying that everything will end with just one move. The boy remembers when he was a child and his father taught him how to wield a sword. His goal was to teach Zeke a secret that was passed down in his family. He always trained and heard the children of the neighborhood saying that he could never join the kingdom's army, but his father said that it didn't matter what others said because they still have the pure bloodline running through their veins. Zeke believed in his father, and the moment he saw the dragon he was sure that he could use the teachings that learned in childhood. The boy lifts the broom ready to hit the dragon. At that moment Alex finally manages to get rid of the slime. Zeke hits the monster accurately. A blue paint erupts from the collision and the dragon is thrown away. Zeke opens his eyes, trying to understand if he managed to hit the target, and realizes that everything is stained with blue paint. Suddenly the villagers start shouting that he is the hero. The protagonist is laughing at the situation. Zeke notices his laughter and 666 questions if the masked hero shouldn't change quickly. The boy obeys and runs away. Meanwhile, Alex observes the situation from above with his face disfigured. He clearly remembers the voice of that thing, saying that the corpse was reborn. The next day arrives and the protagonist wakes up. Alex pours a cup of coffee and says that he heard that humans start their mornings with this drink. Suddenly Zeke invades the room to bring good news. He says that the whole village is commenting on the masked hero. The protagonist gets lost in the middle of the information because he can't take his eyes off the boy's dirty clothes. Zeke replies that he was helping the village with some repairs, and that's why it got so dirty. 666 replies that he understands and says that it's good to wake up with this light in his eyes. The guy just went back to the same room that was destroyed by the dragon and slept peacefully without a roof. On the other hand, the residents try to rebuild as much of the village as possible. Many houses were destroyed during the attack and people are homeless. The protagonist looks carefully at Zeke and praises his performance. Alex says that the boy seems to be very good. Yesterday they talked and Zeke told a little about his poor childhood. He had to work very early to get money and help his family, even worked in a shady bar. The protagonist says that he is happy with the new member of the team and has already chosen what they are going to do from now on. They will stay in this village, and takes a break from traveling. 666 thinks it is a great place to use his identity as a human. He gets up and starts walking smiling, saying that they should let Zeke work. Alex asks where he is going and the protagonist says that he will sell the dragon's hide. The servant gives the terrible news that the hero agency took everything that was left of the dragon last night. 666 asks how this happened and asks if they finished off that dragon in vain, since they will not be able to take anything from his corpse. The Demon King starts shouting angrily that Alex must accompany him. The guy asks scaredly where they are going and the protagonist replies that they are going to the hero's agency. Alex knows that there is the main base of the high-level heroes, so he fears that the protagonist will not get out alive, especially when they find out that the Demon King is in the human world. Alex tries to convince 666 that he can't go to the office, justifying that if he does, his plan to adapt to society will fail. In addition, they need the office continue standing to register Zeke as a warrior. Protagonist thinks about it for a while. Meanwhile, Alex is confident that he managed to prevent the destruction of the demonic race. 666 changes his strategy and says that he knows how to recover his items, then tells the servant to follow him and Alex is forced to drive that carriage again. He gets annoyed when the protagonist doesn't go by the very name he created to live in the human world. 666 also seems tired of traveling. Alex takes the opportunity to encourage him to return to the demonic world since he's been on the surface long enough. 666 replies that he won't do it just because he wants to. The servant doesn't understand the boy's reluctance to assume his own title. The 665 demon kings before him and the entire demonic realm accept this as soon as they are born. The protagonist replies that Alex must accept that there is no demon king anymore. The servant tries to convince him to at least have a son to be put in his place, but 666 says he will not do that. Alex makes it clear that he will not leave until he takes an heir to the underworld. The protagonist replies that this is great because it means that he will stay here on Earth by his side. The servant says that he can find the perfect girl for this. A silence hangs over the two. 666 begins to consider the plan and remembers the princess, but is confused about how this would work. Alex asks if there is something wrong and the protagonist is embarrassed to ask if a human can be impregnated by a demon. Alex answers yes and 666 gives a satisfied smile. The servant says that the method they use to have the baby is exactly the same. The guy starts talking about how the protagonist can make a child, and he says he understands enough. Alex replies that if the boy wants, he can have a child quietly with a human. After all, his kiss has a 25% chance of getting a girl pregnant. The protagonist asks scared if he can have a child just by giving a kiss. The servant replies that he is so fertile that he can get someone pregnant if he just holds hands. The protagonist lies on the wagon and says that he understands that his body is like this because he is forced to leave an heir for the next reincarnation. Alex replies that this is the body of every demon king in the demon world. 666 confesses that he doesn't like the feeling of having someone expecting something from him. At that moment their conversation is interrupted by a noise. They both look towards the sound and realize that a girl is being chased. Alex asks the protagonist to help the girl get rid of these mountain bandits, but 666, he is too comfortable in his wagon to do anything. Besides, the situation seems too suspicious. The protagonist says that a beautiful girl asking for help is one of the first cliches of the fantasy genre. Alex is not sure about this and 666 explains that the bandits are still chasing the girl even in an open field and with them there. He is sure that Alex prepared this situation to use that girl to have an heir from him, The servant asks if the protagonist really thinks that the greatest strategist of the demonic realm would allow such a bad idea to be put into practice. At that moment the girl comes to the wagon and asks 666 to help her get rid of those bandits. He replies that he is just a hero's companion. She doesn't care about it and keeps begging for help while crying. The protagonist says that bandits is too little for him to deal with. The girl speaks some curses and 666 listens. He thinks he managed to catch the girl in the lie and laughs in her face. But the next moment one of the banished throws an axe at the carriage. That guy starts laughing at the protagonist and his hillbilly clothes. 666 did not expect that his carriage would be damaged on the way to his destination. This awakened the fury in his body, and he cursed all those men. The bandits fell to the ground wrapped in black magic, and screamed that their bodies were on fire. The other men tried to help, but the protagonist said that this fire was impossible to put out. His magic cannot be undone by anyone. Then he asks if anyone else wants to be hit too. The guys don't think twice about abandoning the group of bandits and running away. The girl is happy and the protagonist says that she can leave now. She asks for help because her temple was taken by the mountain bandits. 666 refuses and says again that she is not doing any low-level missions. Then tells Alex to move on. The girl interrupts him and questions if the protagonist is the companion of that hero who dresses in a piece of cloth. She adds that her temple has the real dragon helmet and promises to reward him with it if he helps. The protagonist likes the idea and tells Alex to hurry. A few minutes later, 666 is comfortably carried by his servant. Alex can't stand the amount of stairs anymore and the protagonist encourages him to go up. The servant has a strange feeling towards the girl. While he is tired, she has been running for 30 minutes straight. Alex expected such a steep mountain to be difficult for a human's body. 666 replies that he doesn't have to worry because he will rip her head off if she is telling a single lie. What he doesn't understand is why he has a temple called the Golden Dragon. Alex replies that dragons worship a god just as the underworld worships the Demon King. The true Golden Dragon is the most important figure of all dragons. Every living being in this world chooses someone to call their creator. The protagonist thinks that unlike the god of humans, demons and dragons are only used as secondary characters. Alex replies that demons will be favored if the protagonist takes on his own title. 666 is silent. A few minutes later they finally reach the top of the mountain. Alex falls exhausted to the ground and the protagonist uses his body as a path. He warns that he will use it again on the descent. The two enter the temple located inside a cave, and the protagonist soon asks where the priestesses are. He says that he came here for the real helmet of the Golden Dragon. Alex tries to make him fall silent when suddenly a roar is heard behind them. The boys look back in fright. The girl who was being chased earlier appears flying overhead with a frightening aura. She mocks the protagonist's misperception and says that it seems that his minion has a better intuition than him. 666 continues to ask where the helmet is. The woman orders the two to bow down and says that this body in front of them is dominated by the ruler of all dragons. Alex asks the protagonist what are they going to do now that they have found the real Golden Dragon. The servant feels like he is stuck in a dead end. The goddess laughs and says it's okay if they're afraid. She says she can forgive for such insolence, but first she'll give an order to the protagonist. 666 questions if she really thinks he wants to apologize. The guy scratches his nose and says he just wants a cool title like hers. He talks briefly with Alex and the goddess gets annoyed that she is not taken seriously. She yells at the guys to stop all this nonsense because time is running out, so they better hurry up and apologize. 666 says he didn't do anything wrong with her to apologize, but the girl remembers that yesterday he eliminated a dragon. The protagonist asks if she is causing so much confusion just because of that. The woman gets angry and advances towards him, then asks why the protagonist feels so confident if he is in her house. The woman says that even if he is the Demon King 666, he is still in her territory and will not be able to beat her. Alex tries to warn the protagonist that it is very dangerous to stay in the Golden Dragon's territory. The woman thought that the protagonist would feel fear like his minion, but 666 approached her face and said he was ready to finish her off. The goddess is about to say something when she is interrupted. The protagonist questions if she doesn't want to apologize for deceiving him. The woman is bothered by 660's hand on her face. He says that he only came to Earth with the intention of becoming a hero's companion, but that damn dragon appeared in the village and started a fire, so he had to destroy it in self-defense. The goddess doesn't know what to answer. Meanwhile, the protagonist keeps talking that the woman wasn't able to hold back the mess that her own children were making, but now he appeared to punish him. In addition, he still dared to deceive them by saying that he needed help to get rid of the bandits. Alex enters the conversation and agrees with the Demon King. He says that the goddess is extremely arrogant to think that what she says is always right just because she has power. The servant also remembers that it was the dragon's side who forgot the peace agreement and violated it first. So in this situation, the goddess is wrong and has to ask for forgiveness. The protagonist agrees with Alex and says that parents are always responsible for their children's mistakes, so the girl must apologize to Vila, who was attacked by one of her dragons. At that moment, 666 and Alex begin to coerce the goddess so that she assumes her mistakes. Suddenly a red liquid starts to drip from the girl's ear, and she realizes that she is wrong. 666 replies that she is really wrong and asks to let them leave here now, since she has assumed the mistake. The goddess scratches her head in embarrassment and asks if the protagonist can at least hear her request before leaving. 666 does not understand why this girl is still insisting on this matter. He says he will listen to the request if she apologizes first. The woman sees no other choice and asks for forgiveness reluctantly. The protagonist caresses the goddess a little suspiciously on the head and says he accepts her forgiveness, then asks what is the request she wants to make so much. The girl stutters a bit at first, but then says that she needs her dragons to be hunted. 666 is impressed by the request and questions if the dragon mom really wants the Demon King to defeat her children. She replies yes, and the protagonist starts to slap the girl a few times, while asking if she really thinks he will fall into this stupid trap. Alex gets in the way of their battle and asks if the goddess is asking for this because of that purple thing with tentacles that was attached to the dragon's body. The goddess confesses that she thinks that monster is taking the consciousness of her dragons, and that's why he attacked the village. After all, the dragons would never break the peace agreement signed with humans. Even though her children have suffered a lot at the hands of humans, they should never have attacked. Now she fears that a battle will start again between the dragons and the humans, so she asks the protagonist to accept her request and assassinate the dragons that are being manipulated by the hardliners. 666 understands exactly what the girl wants and says that she will find this troublemaker called hardliners who are controlling her peaceful dragons, but asks if she is asking the Demon King for this because she does not want to see her children being eliminated by humans. She answers yes, and the protagonist asks what he will gain from it. The goddess asks if he has something in mind, and the Demon King asks for 5 dragon scales. He heard that since ancient times weapons were made of dragons. The goddess thinks this request is exaggerated, but the protagonist replies that this is his value and creates a contract. He advises you to think carefully because it is an agreement with the devil. Now just say your name that the contract is done. The woman thought for a moment and decided to sign. 666 gives a satisfied smile and says that the agreement is completed. Now he asks the goddess to release them from this space, and adds that he will start the work tomorrow. At that moment the girl yells for him to wait, and asks the protagonist to capture that live goo if possible. He agrees and is freed from the unreal space. Alex breathes the fresh outdoors again and comments that things are going well for now. The protagonist replies that it really is and suddenly runs away. He looks at the empty space and complains that that crazy goddess tricked him out of new. She promised to hand over the dragon's golden helmet and lied. Alex tries to calm him down, but 666 doesn't stop screaming that he will still rip that girl's neck off. The scene changes to the next day. 666 shows his beautiful smile as someone angrily asks if he is really thinking of forging weapons. Alex grabs his neck, while asking if the protagonist abandoned the underworld to forge weapons as mere humans. Zeke tries to calm the situation. The protagonist counters the accusations by saying that for a long time humans have annihilated several baby dragons with these weapons. He just wants to be part of the richest 1% of society. In addition, the goddess promised to give him many weapons if he catches the dragons. 666 adds that weapons are the best deal among humans because they prepare for 100 years to fight demons, so this means that they will get a lot of money. Alex tries to make the Demon King return to reality while Zeke stays in the background without understanding the situation. The protagonist explains to the servant that his real intention is not to be an arms businessman, but to have all the weapons at his fingertips in case a battle breaks out. Alex smiles and says that this is what he expects from the king of the underworld. The protagonist tells him to hurry up and prepare all the material. Alex obeys and runs with Zeke. 666 tells himself that it is very easy to deceive Alex. The truth is that he wants to be an entrepreneur in several departments and will use everything to his advantage for that. A few hours later, the protagonist lies comfortably on his bed. He looks at the ceiling that has not yet been repaired and remembers everything that has happened since he arrived in the human world. The boy is aware that he caused a big mess until he arrived at the inn, but he is happy that at this moment everything is happening as he wanted. The protagonist decides that from now on he will basically sit waiting for the money to fall into his hands, but for some reason he can't get rid of the feeling of danger. He is trying in every way to become a human. Even so, he feels that he will never be like them, and maybe he will be discovered. This awakens a fear in the protagonist, and he decides that the best thing to do now is to sleep. Later that day, Alex presents a weapons store to the protagonist. The owners of the store unfortunately passed away during the dragon attack. 666 complains that his servant was so fast that he could barely sleep. Alex confesses that after hearing the plan he couldn't sit still. It will be easy to make repairs to the store because they have help from Zeke. The protagonist is surprised to know that the boy is carpenter. He thinks Zeke is really amazing for doing many things even at such a young age. Really what hurt him was being Class F. He asks what would happen if a person from Class F had a child with another person from the Pure clan. Alex replies that he thinks the child would be Class F. 666 is sad, saying that there is no hope for defective products. His servant replies that anyway this child will still be heir to a pure one, so it's not that bad. Also, parents who are rich can increase their child's levels in various ways. The protagonist understands that even so it will be very difficult for an F-class to be accepted in society. Alex replies yes and adds that Zeke can change people's minds now that he thinks about becoming a hero. The protagonist remembers that his servant talked about the levels of some heroes being increased with money and gets angry. He yells, asking how the demons can be defeated by these guys whose heroism is determined by whether they have money or not. 666 calms down as he remembers that he is now no longer part of the demons and changes the subject, asking where his hero is. The scene changes to a street noodle restaurant. Zeke was preparing the dishes when the protagonist arrived. 666 asks, confused, why he is selling noodles. The boy replies that he found some free time and wanted to have extra money. The protagonist says that this is great and asks for a bowl of noodles. Zeke obeys and quickly prepares the dish. The Demon King doesn't he expected such a beautiful presentation and his mouth watered. This is the boy's first time trying human food, and he seems to have liked it. Suddenly he screams that this is very good and Alex starts to devour a plate of pasta too. The two start to praise Zeke's talent and the protagonist even says that the boy should give up the idea of being a hero. Making pasta seems much better. Zeke takes the moment to thank the Demon King. He says that it was thanks to the protagonist who was able to buy school uniforms for his younger brothers. Usually they were the only ones in the warrior school who did not walk around in uniform. The protagonist is surprised about the warrior school. Zeke replies that he has always worked hard to be able to pay for a private warrior elementary school. For his brothers, he doesn't want the boys to suffer for being Class F. Suddenly their conversation is interrupted by someone saying that there is a fly in the noodles. A guy starts throwing food everywhere and says that he will never go back to a dirty restaurant like that. Zeke apologizes for what happened and says that he is sure there are no flies around here. Suddenly the man throws the plate of noodles in his face, and the boy tries to defend himself with his arms. He asks if Zeke knows who he is the son of and promises that he will close this store. At that moment some customers begin to know the boy and asks if he does not belong to the Beach family. The guy who threw the food starts laughing at Zeke and says he knows the Holy Family from the beach. He remembers Zeke's father begging for a job in his house. The protagonist can't stand the insults thrown at his hero and yells at the fly to stop making noise. The man is offended at being called Mosca and asks if 666 wants to be beaten. The protagonist raises his hand towards the guy and says that it's time to finish off some flies. He closes his hand and knocks the man to the ground. The woman tries to escape, but is also caught by the protagonist's magic and falls to the ground. After that 666 goes back to eating as if nothing had happened. At that moment the goddess sends a message with the location of one of the dragons. The protagonist says that it is time for his hero to take action and orders the store to close. Night comes and the three advance towards Castle Leah. The wagon leaves at high speed. Alex is once again in charge and poor Zeke is in his underwear again. He looks at the protagonist comfortably lying in the carriage and confesses that he feels a lot of confidence when looking at his master. It is as if a dragon is nothing, but he is sure that his legs will shake when he meets the monster. Alex replies that Zeke was chosen by his master. This means that he has a great importance in the group. For them, the boy is surprised and Alex tells him to act as leader from now on, then accelerates the carriage and says to hold on tight because they are about to arrive at Leah's castle. Zeke feels the cold run through his body, and when he looks up he finds a castle covered in snow. At that moment a great dragon flies over the place. That purple goo also accompanies this monster. Zeke screams in fear that the castle has already been taken. The protagonist points to the side and warns that the residents are all gathered there. Alex says that people probably managed to get out unscathed thanks to some G-class heroes. 666 is happy and tells Zeke to get ready. Meanwhile, the villagers start sharing the covers because of the cold and comment that they need a savior urgently. One of the villagers starts praying, asking God to stop this blizzard. Someone questions if God abandoned them, and another man replies that he is not sure, but he knows that the king fled leaving them behind. The villagers were right because the emperor simply used a magician to create a warm environment just for him. The guy was a few meters from the villagers and did not think for a moment to help them. At that moment he begins to reprimand the magician because he didn't think it's hot enough, but their conversation is interrupted by a noise. The protagonist's carriage ran at full speed, and at the last moment Alex managed to jump over the king without hitting him. The emperor looks at the carriage, surprised, and asks if that was a hero. Someone shouts saying that a hero would not dress only in his underwear. The king turns his attention to the wizard and demands that he send more heat to this place. The villagers notice that the carriage is heading towards the dragon, and a little boy asks if that guy is going to fight only in his underwear. A villager replies that there is no way that could be a hero. Zeke is so embarrassed that everyone looks at his body that he tries to cover himself with the cape. At that moment he has a sad vision. Some of the villagers couldn't escape from the castle in time and ended up being frozen. The cold in that place was very intense and only a few people had blankets to protect themselves. Suddenly the protagonist calls Zeke and says that the plan will be the same last time. Alex will fight the dragon and send it to Earth. Just to be finished, it means that Zeke will swing the broom and hit the dragon at the right time like last time. The boy agreed and the protagonist asked Alex not to make the same mistake as last time. Alex replies that he will do everything correctly and soon creates the teleportation rift. He says that last time he had some problems because he didn't know what that was, but now he is prepared. 666 gives the order to capture the dragon alive. Alex replies with a smile on his face that he will do his best, and then orders Zeke not to leave his position. This dragon looks bigger than the other, and he must stand at a good angle for the villagers to watch. After that Alex enters the rift. The boy tries to understand what he meant by staying in the position. The protagonist denies any explanation and tells Zeke to turn around while he takes a nap, but the boy says he needs his help for something. 666 looks curious and Zeke asks to accompany him to the bathroom. Meanwhile Alex opens a slit facing directly at the purple goo. This time he feels more prepared to deal with this thing. That octopus with tentacles is attached to the dragon's head, and as soon as he sees Alex starts to attack. His tentacles fly directly at the servant, but Alex is faster and avoids the attack. At that moment he manages to score all the points of the purple monster with magic and an explosion happens. Zeke follows the fight impressed. The residents also want to see what is happening, but the fog hinders the view. Zeke realizes that he needs to go to the place that Alex marked. Before going, the protagonist hands over a shield and says that he needs to protect himself, then puts a defensive barrier on the object. Zeke is surprised and the protagonist says that the shield should at least resist the breath of a dragon, just to make sure the boy gets out of there alive. Zeke is about to thank him when he realizes that 666 has gone back to sleep. He decides that he needs to hurry up and find a good place for Alex to leave the dragon. He comes to the conclusion that the most visible place must be somewhere high and in the center. The boy looks around and finds a mountain covered in ice. He runs at full speed and ends up slipping on the way. Meanwhile the fight continues at full speed up there between Alex and that purple thing. The servant keeps piercing the tentacles with precision. Suddenly one of the octopus eyes turns red, and he shoots something corrosive in Alex's face. The servant is hit and splashes red liquid. The octopus still controls the dragon's consciousness and tries to flee, but Alex, even with his injured face, runs after the target. This time his attacks are successful, and even the dragon is hit. The monster begins to lose its balance while Alex continues to knock out. Suddenly the dragon falls to the ground. The servant has some mutations in his body caused by the crazy octopus. He approaches the purple goo and says that it looks like it is very resistant, but he is not there to give up and says that he will end it now. Zeke follows what is happening from a safe distance and realizes that the dragon is on the ground. He is surprised to see that Alex is dealing alone with a dragon. This arouses the boy's curiosity and he wonders if Alex is D-class. The villagers are in the background cheering for Zeke. They can't see what's going on and hope that the boy in his underwear is defeating that dragon. The king hears the screams of the villagers and asks if that is really the hero. Meanwhile, Zeke is happy realizing that everyone is rooting for him. Now the boy feels determined to be a real hero. Instead of standing still and trembling waiting for the target to fall in front of him, at that moment a voice calls him a hero and asks for help. Zeke looks around and finds a person almost 100% frozen. He thinks about what to do when he suddenly hears a noise and sees Alex being thrown. The servant is still having some problems with the goo. In addition, his body is being consumed by the enemy's corrosive liquid. The purple monster manages to regenerate and again controls the dragon's consciousness. He speaks a few words in his language to Alex. The servant comes to the conclusion that that thing can regenerate indefinitely as long as the host remains alive. This means that the dragon in front of him is practically a zombie dragon. The monster tries to stand up. On the other hand, Alex remembers that the protagonist asked him to capture the dragon alive. Thinking about it, the only alternative he finds is to cut off all his limbs. At that moment, the dragon manages to stand up again and runs towards Alex, ready to attack him. The servant activates the ability of 100 demonic hands without thinking twice. This time his body seems more agile and the attack is successful. The 100 hands turn into a giant hand and Alex punches the dragon in the face. The servant knows that that alone is not enough and activates a second skill called Hell's Hammer. Several hands shoot from his back and he begins to hit the dragon with all his strength. At that moment his hands join and hang the enemy. The dragon screams in pain as he tries to free himself, but Alex holds his ground. At that moment the ground begins to shake and Zeke ends up being sent away. Meanwhile, the servant manages to create a protective barrier with some of his hands and says he will end the game now. The purple goo continues to try to take the dragon's consciousness to make them flee from here. Alex soon casts a spell ordering his hands to join and then split into 3 to attack. The hands hold the dragon's body limbs. Then Alex knocks the enemy to the ground with the first hand. The second hand uses the big demonic blow, and the third hand uses the rain of punches. The villagers have a quick view of the fight and are impressed. Zeke finally regains his senses and runs towards the girl who was asking for help. He tries with all his might to break that layer of ice, but is unsuccessful. Zeke realizes that the girl is hugging someone who was previously frozen and comes to the conclusion that this person sacrificed himself for her. At that moment the girl asks that at least save his son. Zeke uses the broom handle to try to break the ice and says that he will take the mother and son out alive. He tries to be as fast as possible because he knows that in a little while Alex will need him. Suddenly a strong light begins to form near the boy. One of the villagers yells for Zeke to get away from the light because it was the light that destroyed the castle. After the man's words, an explosion happens and the light travels towards the boy, but he quickly remembers the shield he got from the protagonist and uses it to protect himself. The blow is so strong that the shield is in pieces and Zeke is thrown backwards. The light begins to blind the villagers and they cover their faces. The cold also increases, and even the magic that protects the king is of no use. Alex lands in front of the dragon and realizes that it is becoming difficult to maintain the condition of the body he has preserved to use in 20 years. The demonic soldier regrets having to use his power now. While Alex thinks about what to do, Zeke finally wakes up after the big blizzard that covered his body. The first thing he remembers is that mother with the baby. The woman unfortunately did not survive because her body from the waist down was frozen and cut off after the blizzard, but the baby is still alive and crying. Zeke is determined to save at least that child, but realizes that something is wrong the moment he tries to walk. His feet were amputated after the freezing. Suddenly the villagers realize that another killer frost is coming and shout for the hero to run, but Zeke refuses to run away without saving the baby, so he starts crawling towards the child. Meanwhile, Alex, totally in his cursed form, asks if the enemy thinks that killer frost will work with him as it does with humans. He laughs, saying that this really looks like a joke. The next moment an explosion happens. Zeke manages to get to the baby and is sent away because of the explosion. At that moment a person approaches and says that he really can't understand. The protagonist looks at Zeke and wonders how humans can think they can defeat him, when in fact they are all being consumed by a cold. 666 does not understand how the demons lost to these individuals. In all 665 reincarnations, Zeke begins to lose consciousness and apologizes to the protagonist for not having arrived in time. He promises he'll do better next time, and then passes out. The next day, Zeke finally wakes up after feeling a clear light on his face. The guy is covered in bandages all over his body, and the first thing he remembers is that he was supposed to defeat the dragon, but when he looks around he realizes that he is in his room at the inn. Zeke begins to question if this was all a hallucination and touches his head trying to regain his senses. Suddenly when he brings his arm towards his face, he notices some seams on his body, even his legs are sewn together. Zeke wonders what happened. Suddenly he hears a conversation outside and recognizes his master's voice. The boy runs excitedly and sees the protagonist with several weapons. 666 asks if he has woken up. Zeke asks several questions about the state of his body and about the baby. He also questions what happened to the dragon. 666 only replies that the dragon and the baby were taken care of, so he shouldn't worry. The Demon King adds that now that the boy is okay he should hurry up because they have a lot of work to do. Zeke is happy to hear this and tells the master that he is ready. After that day, the trio continued defeating the dragons as usual. The protagonist tells the defect to go and the boy says he is ready. Alex quickly attacks the dragon with a dagger. This time the dragon is automatically collected after being defeated. And the next day the protagonist wakes him up with guns raining down in front of his house. The same scene repeats itself for a few days without fail. The group gains more and more artifacts for defeating such a powerful monster. 666 is satisfied that his plan worked, and they continue to do so throughout the month. The group finally found a space in the schedule for a quiet dinner, but suddenly the peace ends when the dragon goddess sends the location of the next attack. Without thinking twice the group flies towards the new monster. The challenges that Zeke faced daily ended up giving him more confidence. Now he even jumps over Lich. The boy also gained more space in the group. The villagers always appeared at the windows to see him after the monster was defeated. The protagonist praises him for his great performance and Zeke can't contain the happiness on his face. After numerous jobs, Zeke and his group have become the most famous team in the region. At that moment the group looks happily at the gun shop that was built with so much effort. 666 gives the name of Devil's Gun to his business. Zeke is the first to enter the shop and shouts that all the weapons collected have been organized incredibly. Not even the protagonist believed it that it would be that good. Alex replies that he made an effort for this gun store to be the best on the continent. 666 says that this is good because they will be responsible for the business. Alex asks confused if he is not going to do anything. The truth is that the protagonist wants to live a comfortable life without working, so he questions if Alex has ever seen the owners working. The servant has an objection to make, but the protagonist begins to squeeze the two while asking if they have anything against their choice not to run the shop. Zeke and Alex immediately respond that they have nothing against it. 666 says that this is good and wishes the employees good luck. Before the Demon King leaves, Zeke says he needs to talk something. He asks permission to continue running the tent because he still needs to earn the monthly fee of his younger brothers. 666 replies that he can do whatever he wants and the boy thanks him. Then the Demon King calls Alex and tells him to bring that. In the next moment Zeke looks happily into the chest. While saying that this shield looks incredible, the protagonist removes the shield from the box and says that it was created from the scales obtained from defeated dragons, combining the blue scales, dark stone and chaotic. This is exactly what the protagonist wanted. Alex explains that the shield was specially created by the best blacksmith in the underworld called Hermes. It can withstand up to 34 attacks from the Demon King. The protagonist is shocked and Zeke says that the dwarves are very good at creating something like this. The underworld that Alex mentioned referred to the world of demons, but Zeke understood that it was the place where the blacksmiths lived. The protagonist hands over the shield and tells him to test it. Suddenly the boy is sucked into the object and appears floating in an unknown place. He becomes desperate and screams for the protagonist. Soon a voice asks if he was the one who called him. Zeke looks towards the voice and finds that shield eye in disproportionate size. The voice introduces itself as Pond of Doom and says that from today on he will take him as his master until the end of his life. Zeke asks confused since when he is a master, suddenly a white light shoots in his direction and he has to cover his eyes. The boy is brought back to the store and screams asking where that eye is. 666 replies that he is coming and orders the defect to block the attack. Zeke obeys and a flow of energy launches itself in his direction. The flow is so powerful that the boy breaks through the wall behind him. Alex gets angry and accuses the protagonist of destroying the store as soon as it was built. 666 responds in his defense that he was just doing a test. Zeke raises his hand among the rubble and says that this shield is really amazing. He is sure that any hero would want it. The protagonist is surprised to see that the shield is intact even after dealing with his spear of destruction. He then calls Zeke and says that this shield is his now. The boy is surprised because he doesn't think he's worthy of something so powerful. The protagonist says that he should use powerful equipment because he's the weakest among them. For now he will start with the shield. Zeke gets emotional and asks if the master is really going to give something so important to an F-class. 666 firmly replies that this shield belongs to him. The boy thanks him as he hugs the gift and cries. He says he wouldn't have imagined even in a million years that he would face such an incredible situation in his life. The protagonist is surprised by some human emotions that he had not witnessed before, so he asks why he is crying when he was not even hurt. The scene changes to the Green Kingdom in the Akama Castle. After the protagonist destroyed the place, several bandits broke in and started living inside. A guy with a purple beard comments that he is very happy. He holds Princess April and asks how she feels. Apparently the girl is still hypnotized. At that moment a man dressed in black and with his face covered begins to check the castle. He catches everyone's attention in that place and walks lightly without saying anything. The guy checked all the places in the castle and then touches the ground, concluding that there was no trace of a fight here. That man with the purple beard asks who he is. The guy in the hood raises his face smiling and replies that he doesn't need to worry. Suddenly he advances towards the throne and touches the wall. His eyes quickly detect that there was an explosion in that place. The man looks up and realizes that the mountain was divided in two, probably after the explosion that took place inside the castle. He is sure that there is only one person capable of doing something like this. At that moment the bandit gets angry with the invader and shouts for his men to get him out of here. The hooded man quickly advises the men to stay where they are because this place is very dangerous. Even though they are bandits, they must still fear for their own lives. The men do not obey the warning and say they will finish him. The hooded man says he didn't want to do that, but raises his hand and quickly knocks down the men using magic. The guy with the purple beard is surprised and asks who he is. The hooded man points up and says he was sent to investigate the place because the people above are worried that something bad has happened here. The guy with the purple beard asks who are the people from above that he talked to. The hooded man replies that he was sent by the representative of God, the famous Sanctus Maximus Populi. The leader of the bandits shouts, asking if he is talking about the most sacred of all. The hooded man replies that it is exactly that and asks him to tell what happened in this place. The bandit starts to stutter. Then the man says that he is sure that something wrong happened. There is no way that everyone from Akoma Castle disappears in an instant without leaving a trace. The bandit confesses that he does not know exactly what happened. He only heard the merchants of the city talk about an unknown person with white hair entering through the castle gate that morning. Shortly after they heard screams and then the castle exploded suddenly. There are no witnesses because apparently everyone has been eliminated. The hooded man thanks for the answers and turns his back. The bandit makes it clear that the king was completely mad and tyrant. He built this castle on the corpse of many innocent people, so he is not sad about his end. The bandit adds that he thinks the white-haired man is a savior for overthrowing that evil king and returning what is rightfully people's. He is the true Messiah, far superior to the Sanctus who exploited humans to live luxuriously. The hooded man listens in silence to the insults uttered to his lord, then says that they will know if this white-haired man was sent by God or if he is part of a new force that is together with evil. When they find out, they will make the right decision. The hooded man walks towards the exit and makes a quick movement with his hand. The next moment the bandit is cut and the hooded man says that this is for the words spoken to Master Sanctus. The scene changes to a few days later. The protagonist and his group have just dealt with another dragon. Alex shows that purple goo to 666 and says that it is a parasite. It is better to let the goddess take care of it. The protagonist questions why the goddess herself does not take any action towards these numerous infected dragons. Alex replies that he believes that the girl does not think she is capable of taking care of these things by herself because she is in this world through the body of a human. 666 asks what he is talking about and Alex says that he saw something about it in the records of the Dimensional Library. The Dimensional Library serves as the most important proof recognized by the gods. It cannot be changed once it is written and is the only official form of accepted evidence. The protagonist asks if the servant means that the reason the dragon goddess does not act is due to the fear of leaving a record of her in the Dimensional Library. If this is true, it means that her presence here is a secret to people. Alex replies that he thinks that's it, but he's not sure why he doesn't delve so much into the subjects of dragons. After the conversation they go back to the carriage and the protagonist asks if the defective product has fallen asleep. Alex comments that Zeke has been surpassing himself every day. He faced a dragon that even a G-class hero would have difficulty with. It seems that the boy is determined. Suddenly something catches the protagonist's attention. He realizes that Zeke is carrying the shield wrapped in a white fabric. Alex remembers the boy saying that he is taking care of the gift as much as he can because he wants to pass it on to his younger brother when he becomes a hero. Protagonist bursts into laughter and says that he will give one like this to Zeke's brother when it's time, but now they must return home. So he asks Alex to put the boy carefully in the carriage so he doesn't wake up. The servant agrees and the three continue their journey together. The protagonist says that the seams on Zeke's body are still visible. He thought that the doctors of the underworld would do a half job, but he was surprised by the good quality. Alex replies that the doctors there have a lot of experience with human bodies. 666 agrees and asks if Alex thinks the flawed boy could become a remarkable hero if he was D-class. The servant replies that he thinks the brat would do well because he has a good sense of responsibility. Probably if that happened, 20 years from now the protagonist would have to face him. 666 asks why he would do it and Alex shouts that he is the Demon King. The protagonist replies that he is sure that anyone who looked at him would understand that he is the companion of a hero. At that moment 666 seriously asks if there is a risk that Zeke is the last warrior who must defeat him. Alex replies that it is not possible because Zeke is not from Generation 0. The final hero must have been born at least in the 5th generation to be according to the rules of this world. Humans normally give birth to a child in their 20s, and that child has a child in their 20s as well, and so on. This means that the child of the 5th generation reaches the age of 20 exactly at the time that the Demon King must leave the underworld. In the final battle usually those who fight against them are Generation 0 and of this generation only one is born as a hero. Zeke is part of the 4th generation and therefore cannot become the final hero. The only possibility is that Zeke's son becomes a hero. The protagonist laughs saying that it is funny that every 100 years the final hero and the Demon King are born. It seems like a game. Alex takes advantage of this moment to ask 666 why he abandoned demons and stopped being a Demon King. The protagonist avoids eye contact and asks if he hadn't told this before. Alex yells that he didn't say anything. The Demon King looks thoughtful and replies that there is no special reason. Suddenly something noisy interrupts the conversation. 666 looks up and asks if that is not a flying ship. Alex replies that it is and adds that it looks like he is being chased by a dragon. The protagonist is tired of having to deal with so many dragons lately. Suddenly Alex screams that he doesn't believe it. He notices the crest drawn on the ship and says that it is the emblem of the Pure Clan. The protagonist asks if he is sure and Alex says yes. The Pure Ones is a family that created almost 100 final heroes, but he doesn't understand why something seems wrong with them. At that moment 666 calls Alex and says that they should watch the show. At the same moment he says this, an explosion happens. The guards carry something giant in the carriage. Someone shouts to be careful with the fire. Meanwhile the commander tells the men to be careful that the item doesn't break. He gets angry because this item is very important. Heads will roll if there is a single scratch on that thing. The commander thought it couldn't get worse, but at that moment a dragon flies towards them spitting fire. The commander quickly orders the archers and the mages to get ready to shoot. Everyone waits anxiously in their position and starts attacking. The dragon keeps moving forward. Others wizards appear and try to destroy it, but nothing is able to stop that dragon that breathes fire everywhere. People are hit and thrown away. The commander gets up to check if the item is still okay. Fortunately the fire did not hit the product. He celebrates happily while some guards complain that they were hit. The commander has no time to rest because the dragon comes towards him again. He shouts for the wizard not to make a mistake this time. The dragon advances at full speed and the commander begins to tremble. Suddenly someone shouts to leave the way clear and picks up momentum. The man jumps on the commander's head and pulls out the sword. The next moment he hits the dragon in the middle using the skill Camellia Branches. The commander celebrates the appearance of the lord several times. The defeated dragon falls to the ground. Several looks at the commander and scolds him for putting everyone's lives at risk. The commander replies that he was sure he would win. The guy is tired of this flattery and only tells him to clean everything and call support if something bad happens to the item. He is sure that his father will make a decoration with his head. The commander says that several do not need to worry and takes him to see the item. When he gets there, they find the protagonist and Alex on top of the package. The commander shouts, asking who they are. In the same second 666, he nimbly cuts the fabric that surrounds the item. He is surprised to discover that the item is a live dragon. Alex also realizes that this one is not infected by the parasite. The protagonist comes to the conclusion that that baby dragon attacked the group because he was trying to recover his mother. He turns to the kidnappers and asks why someone from the hero's family is attacking the dragons, if there is a peace agreement between them. Several replies that they will have to take care of some corpses now. Alex asks the protagonist why he is provoking the guy, and 666 confesses that he wants to know the power of a pure one, but the guy just turns his back and orders the commander to take care of the intruders. The man soon yells for the guards to finish off these guys. The protagonist is so annoyed for not fighting a pure one that he starts crying. The servant advises him to leave because this behavior has nothing to do with a hero's companion. The protagonist understands what the guy means and remembers the attack that several used, then asks why everyone who has pure lineage is using tree names. Alex believes it's because there are too many trees in their territory. The commander loses his temper and yells that these guys are belittling them, so he orders all the archers and the wizards to shoot now. They obey, but 666 and Alex reappear behind them. Even the commander is open-mouthed and asks how these guys got there. Alex says that it won't be difficult to get rid of some of them, but asks if the protagonist is sure he wants to do that. 666 asks why the servant seems so worried. Alex repeats again that he is trying to protect his reputation as a hero's companion. 666 understands that he can get into trouble and thinks that he may need to ask for forgiveness, but the servant says that this will not be enough because they have just seen the men's secret. The protagonist gets angry and thinks it is better to run away. The fight of the two irritates the commander even more because he thinks he is not being taken seriously. The support group arrives and starts attacking. Alex says he didn't want to mess with the hero's family, but at this point there is nothing he can do. The servant casts a spell and a strong light comes out of his mouth, capable of corroding the faces of his enemies. Meanwhile, Zeke is still sleeping comfortably in the wagon, unaware of the confusion that the protagonist has caused. The mages and archers gather again to attack, but this time Alex hits the heads of some guards after his extreme scream. Then he uses his claws to hit one by fatally. One of the guards manages to pick up momentum and sends an arrow towards Alex, but the servant quickly crushes him with magic. Suddenly a wizard stops in front of him and throws a lightning bolt. Alex opens a portal and rebuts the attack. The wizard ended up being hit by the lightning itself. The protagonist just stands as a viewer watching Alex defend him. Now only the commander remains. He trembles, asking who these guys are. Suddenly several jumps on the man pointing the blade at Alex. He uses the camellia branch's attack again and the whole ground is destroyed. The stones fly everywhere and several land on the ground. A voice tells him to stop this mess and the guy realizes that the targets were not hit. He then asks how the duo was able to dodge his sword and why they went around eliminating his soldiers. The protagonist advises him to look for the answers alone. Several questions if he is part of the Dragon Clan. 666 does not answer and the guy says that it does not matter because he will turn them into corpses now. The Demon King says that he is more stupid than he seems. Until that moment several did not know that who was in front of him was the Demon King. But as soon as he looked into his eyes, something inside him changed. As a descendant of the pure bloodline, the guy was able to awaken the warrior spirit. His body exudes a furious aura and the ground under his feet begins to shake. Alex, with more experience, already knows what is happening. The commander tries to protect himself from the stones that are flying thanks to the awakening of several and asks what is happening. Meanwhile, the guy continues to emanate the frightening aura. The protagonist looks without understanding anything and wonders what this show is. The warrior shoots so quickly in his direction that 666 can't follow with his eyes. He finally realizes that something has changed in that guy. The warrior unsheathes his sword and tries to strike the protagonist, but he was already waiting for this attack and dodged easily. The Demon King even laughs at the situation, saying that the guy must be faster or it will make him bored. Suddenly a voice calls for him, and the protagonist gets scared. Alex smiles as he begs them to leave now. 666 replies that now that the show is getting good and asks if the servant is afraid of this hero. Alex replies yes and shows the wound he received from the hand of the last attack. This leaves the protagonist a little bewildered because he was sure that his servant would easily deal with this guy. Suddenly the warrior approaches his face again. While 666 continues to wonder what is wrong with Alex and why he is hesitating to eliminate this idiot, an explosion happens after the attack of several. He pushes the sword towards the protagonist's neck, but nothing happens. 666 says that he is too weak to touch at least a single strand of his hair. Several again tries his attack. He does the same blow numerous times and the protagonist is not hit. 666 even jokes asking if he really is part of the pure bloodline. The ground below them was destroyed. The protagonist confesses that he had high hopes since several came from the bloodline of the last hero, but his attack is so slow that it makes him sleepy. He decides that he will end it all now because he wants to return home. The protagonist pushes the ground with his feet and attacks using the sharp cutting skill. At the same moment Alex enters in front of the warrior and his arm is cut off. The warrior counterattacks and uses the blade of the sword to hit the protagonist, but ends up hitting Alex who placed himself in front. 666 looked at the servant trying to understand why he is doing this. At that moment Alex practically deactivates the warrior. The protagonist realizes that the servant used magic to knock the enemy unconscious. He turns his attention to Alex asking what's wrong with him, since from the beginning he is avoiding fighting this warrior. He even blocked the attack he launched. Alex apologizes for this and leaves. Of course, he is not trying to protect this hero. His concern is the order of the world. The Demon King's goal is to invade the earth and destroy everything in his reach. And this is within the rules of the order of the world, but if he starts doing this 20 years in advance, the news will spread and they will find out that the Demon King is alone in the human world, so everyone will try to eliminate him. The protagonist says he understands your concern, then he looks at the hero on the ground and says he doesn't understand how these useless humans could have defeated all the Demon Kings. The servant just smiles. 666 soon asks if there is any reason for the Demon King to be defeated by these idiots. Alex does not respond, causing the protagonist to come to the conclusion that he will only find out about it in 20 years. The servant confirms. 666 is incredulous when he realizes that he will not tell what can happen. With no other alternative, the protagonist uses the demonic power to threaten him and says that he will put an end to Alex if he does not speak. Then he asks why the guy is so afraid of breaking the rules of this order that he talks about so much. Alex says that he will only say one thing: if the protagonist continues to act this way, his dream of becoming a member of the party of heroes and living a comfortable life will be in vain. After so much mess, the humans will discover his identity, and he will have to face all the heroes in the world. Alex mockingly tells the protagonist to go ahead if he wants this to happen. 666 starts to get angry, and the servant warns that he will take care of this guy, so he can go back to the chariot. This time the protagonist changes his mind and says that they should not get their hands dirty with this hero. The Demon King even creates a portal for them to escape and questions if the servant is not coming. He replies that he has to clean up his tracks, then advises the protagonist to go back first. 666 is not sure if everything will be okay. Alex begins to push him into the portal, while saying that he can take care of everything himself. After that, the servant is left alone. He quickly advances towards the warrior and begins to squeeze his face, while questioning how the guy dares to hit one of the 7 dukes of the demon world with that dirty thing he calls a sword. Alex seems to be losing his mind and threatens to destroy the pure family in 20 years. The scene returns to Zeke, who slept through all the confusion that happened. The protagonist looks at his teammate with a smile on his face. For now he feels happy with the life he is leading, but wonders what will happen 20 years from now. The boy has many doubts in his head, especially with the dragons making such a mess. Lately his works have only been about them. The protagonist still complains about the idiot goddess who always gets in the way of his leisure time. At that moment a voice asks who he is calling an idiot. He is surprised and asks if she was watching all the time. The goddess confesses that she always has her eye on him. The protagonist replies can be his witness if she wants. The girl laughs and says that it is very good to have him as a witness. Surely everyone would believe that a demon king prevented a hero who broke the peace treaty from hunting a dragon. The protagonist says that accusing all demons of being bad is a slander, but the goddess reminds that they always appear on Earth every 100 years to wreak havoc. 666 says that he also doesn't know why they keep emerging. They could stay quietly in the underworld. The goddess replies that he is too stupid to be the demon king. the protagonist says that she should worry more about protecting her dragons instead of seeing them being captured as a spectator. 666 adds that she heard humans call her dragon children items. He is 100% sure that those men kidnapped the dragons to turn them into weapons. After all, some parts of his body are used to create large artifacts. The protagonist advises the girl to report what happened since they are breaking an agreement. The goddess asks if he can do something for her. 666 asks what it is, and the girl replies that she wants him to destroy those people. The protagonist replies that it doesn't make sense for him to do this, and says that she can fend for herself. The goddess says that the rules of this world protect humans, and let them murder any being. This refers to dragons and demons too, for example. This she thinks she can do nothing. The laws of this world will always defend humans. The protagonist replies that he is tired of talking about the rules of this world. Suddenly the goddess screams and he feels a strong pressure pushing his body down. 666 falls to the ground and red liquid drips from his nose. The goddess keeps talking about the same things and makes the protagonist angrier. He angrily yells that these people who rule the world are playing random rules waiting for them to obey. Without question, the goddess says that this is exactly what she expected from the Demon King. The protagonist thanks her for the compliment and calls her a lizard brain. The girl puts the insult aside and asks why he gave up being a demon king. Suddenly her eyes light up when she realizes that in front of her is the first demon king to give up the title in the last 666 centuries. The protagonist is surprised and asks why she is so happy about it. He concludes that the girl wants a companion to break the rules of this world. The goddess feels offended and says that she is only happy because it is the first time she sees such a case. She advises to be careful with the executioners 20 years from now. The protagonist replies that he is not afraid. The goddess says that she understands and asks again the reason for giving up being a demon king. His eyes shine waiting for a good answer. 666 replies that it is nothing special. The reason why he stopped being a demon king is... In the same second their conversation is interrupted. Alex opens the portal and appears near the two. For the second time the protagonist could not say why he stopped being the demon king. Alex greets the goddess and she complains about him appearing at an inconvenient time. The servant is curious to know what she was doing here, but the protagonist says he is tired and wants to go home. The girl shouts that 666 has not finished telling the story. He replies that he will tell another time and tells Alex to hurry. Before going, the goddess asks the protagonist to think about his request. Even if he doesn't want to end those humans, it would still be good to report the violation of the contract. 666 shows 3 fingers and the goddess asks what he means. The boy replies that as the case this time is difficult, he wants 3 times the value of the usual contract. The goddess curses him in every possible way, but she knows she won't make him change his mind and agrees to pay the amount he asked for. But before she sends a spell to him, the protagonist feels better and asks what she did. The goddess replies that she hid her demonic aura. Usually the heroes and those of the pure clan automatically react to her aura. With this magic, they will have difficulty. 666 says she understands and tells Alex to hurry. The goddess is annoyed because she expected at least a thank you. The next day arrives. The protagonist and his group look enchanted at the castle ahead. Alex says that the Halachuarsha family are from a lineage of heroes 60,000 years ago. The protagonist points to Zeke and asks how he has the same lineage and is such a failure. Alex tells the Demon King that he should only say this when they are alone. After that he explains to the two that when a family of heroes becomes famous, the nobles line up to be their sponsors, so what they need to do is keep eliminating the dragons to get the attention of these nobles. They will have no problem doing this because the dragons always stand by the humans. The protagonist asks why and Alex replies that if one day the humans are defeated by demons, the dragons will be the next targets. 666 says that he now knows why in the underworld there are so many parts of the dragon's body. He also understands that this Halachuarsha family and several other pure bloodline families are after the dragons, so he asks Zeke if his family also hunts dragons. The boy scratches his head in shame and says that he needs to be at least G-class to get close to a dragon's nest. The protagonist says that he is sure that any dog can do it, that's it. Alex tries to comfort Zeke while asking why they came here. 666 replies that he wants to do an investigation into dragon poaching. He is anxious, but Alex remembers that yesterday they had their identity revealed to that group of heroes, with the exception of Zeke. who was not seen because he continued to sleep in the wagon. Alex says that it is better that they enter in disguise. A few minutes later, we realize that they have swapped clothes with each other as a disguise. Alex doesn't seem comfortable and has a strange feeling. The protagonist, still excited, says that they must go ahead. Zeke tries to say that the group needs to act if they want to enter this place. 666 agrees and approaches the gate, then starts shouting that the heroes are here. The boy expects to receive praise for yelling instead of breaking down the gate. A few minutes later, the trio enters the castle and observes something in front of them. Zeke recognizes the man in the frame. He is the last hero of the 52nd generation who fought with the Demon King for 13 days and emerged victorious. His name is Hellish. Zeke even feels a bit of a failure when he remembers that the world once had a hero like that. The protagonist says that he should not compare himself because in the end all heroes are equal. Zeke is kind of skeptical. Voice agrees with the protagonist and says that all heroes are equal in goals, but not all heroes are equal in skills. The man named Solus welcomes him and says that he is the current hero of the 3rd generation of this century. He is already retired and is now in charge of the house. For a moment the protagonist thought that this man was the same as in the portrait, but now he believes that he must be the son of Hellish. At that moment Zeke introduces himself to the man and tries to introduce his two companions, but Solus interrupts him saying that he already knows who they are. In fact, he was only late to receive them because he needed to confirm with the hero management department if they really were warriors. It was there that he saw their work. Zeke is a little embarrassed, while the protagonist finds the behavior of this descendant of Hellish a little suspicious. At that moment we solve why they came here. The Demon King replies that he came to confirm a strange rumor that has been circulating around. Zeke mentally asks his master to improve the tone to speak. The warrior does not like the way the protagonist speaks and says that his tone does not match his position. 666 replies that he was speaking like that because he thought they would be treated as fellow heroes, but apparently the man wants to be treated like a nobleman who is now retired. The man bursts into laughter and says that he was once a reckless young man like the protagonist, who thought he would defeat the Demon King alone, but it is good to remember that there is a limit to his ego. Zeke tries to calm the situation. Solus questions what is the rumor that is circulating around. The protagonist replies that first of all he heard that he had good materials here. The warrior replies that he is not sure if the group will have enough money. The Hellish family is known for trading only top-notch high-quality materials, such as the heart of the white-headed giant of the Horga mountain range. The protagonist soon replies that he doesn't need these small things. He wants something higher class from the giants. The warrior is surprised because something of the giant's class is already rare and very good. The protagonist is direct and says that his hero is a rookie. He delivers a bag of dragon lava stones, while saying that Zeke needs items to strengthen his image as a hero. Solus realizes that these stones are only available in the demonic world, and wonders how the protagonist managed to do this. Anyway, he rejects the job, and says that it is against the law to trade dragon parts now that they are under a peace treaty. 666 says that it seems that humans don't really mess with dragons, but questions why there was the Hellish family crest on that aircraft that carried the dragon. Solus asks worried if he saw anything. The protagonist he replies that he heard some rumors. He and his team are newbies in this hero thing, so he is trying to understand how things work here. The protagonist says this and then confesses that he really ended up seeing something he shouldn't. The warrior replies that he should be more careful. 666 understands the intonation of threat and says that it is easier to knock down a tower than to build one from scratch. He is sure that it would cause an uproar in the population if the news that the noble families are monopolizing all good things alone spreads. Zeke notices the tension in the air and tries to calm things down. Solus says that now it is his turn to speak a rumor. He questions if the group has ever heard of a masked hero suddenly appearing and defeating several dragons. Zeke fears that his secret will be discovered. The protagonist asks what the man means and Solus replies that he only finds it suspicious his rookie hero walking with the Pond of Destruction. After all, the materials of this shield are the same materials of the Blue Dragon and the Dark Stone Dragon that the masked hero removed. The protagonist replies that he is surprised that he knows the Pond of Destruction. The warrior replies that it is no surprise that a hero knows everything above the rare rank. He is sure that this shield is a special S-rank Pond of Destruction made with blue dragon scales and dark stone, but he also knows that this item does not exist in the list of artifacts, which means that it was created in secret. Alex is surprised by the warrior's sharp perception. At that moment Solus turns his attention to the protagonist and decides to talk directly to him, since he is acting as the leader of the party. The warrior then says that he does not know what the protagonist's relationship is with the masked hero, but asks him to inform this hero that the nobles are not very happy about losing the source of income for him. Solus warns that some high levels of the clans involved will gather to eliminate the masked hero, who is collecting several dragons. Zeke turns blue with fear when he hears this. Solus adds that the nobles are so angry that they will probably murder whoever is close to the mysterious hero, and looking closely it is kind of strange that a rural family from the countryside has a treasure like the Pond of Destruction. Although the warrior's speech seems very scary, he reaffirms that his family does not trade illegal materials, such as dragon parts, but is willing to trade lower-ranked items if the group wants. After passing on all the information, the man leaves. Zeke cannot hide that he is in panic. A few minutes later the group leaves the Hellish family home. They are a little lost with all the information. What they have understood so far is that the noble families are working together to hunt dragons and monopolize their materials. It seems that these rich are planning to eliminate anyone who tampers with their source of income. Alex says that this is expected. The most important thing for a hero is the equipment. He comes to the conclusion that the Pure Clan is controlling the supply of materials so that he can control the heroes. The protagonist is not sure if all the families that are involved in this are part of this clan. Alex replies that it is an assumption. Zeke confesses that he is disappointed because he thought Solus was a righteous hero. 666 says that from this perception, it seems that demons are kinder than humans. It is no surprise that they have won 665 times. Alex gives a forced smile and the protagonist decides to change the subject. He congratulates Zeke for becoming the target of the nobles. Probably everyone wants his head at this point. Zeke had already forgotten this fact and now he despairs again. The Demon King reassures him, saying that he has nothing to worry about. Just focus on the weapon store and pretend that he is someone normal. This means that the masked hero will be hidden for a while, but before they must do one thing tonight. The protagonist takes on a dark personality and tells them that they must enter the renowned house of the Hellish family to steal evidence. Night comes and the group invades the Hellish family's castle. The protagonist comments that this place is more beautiful at night. Zeke asks the Demon King if his plan to sneak in and find the corpse of the dragon that the Hellish family has hidden somewhere in this castle is enough to prove that they are stealthily hunting dragons. The protagonist confirms that this is his incredible plan. Zeke has another question. He questions why are they walking shamelessly through the center of the castle if the plan was to sneak in. At that moment a noise of footsteps is heard and the duo finds two guards. Zeke raises his hand to surrender to the patrol. Meanwhile the protagonist remains motionless. The boy in his underwear doesn't know what's going on. Suddenly those guards pass by them as if they don't see anything. Zeke finally understands that they are protected with the magic of invisibility. The protagonist says that they must go now. The duo searches various parts of the castle and Zeke comes to the conclusion that there are no dragons here. He then asks where Alex is. 666 replies that he went ahead to speed up the work. The boy says he understands. At that moment the protagonist calls him and asks if his family has ever lived well like the Hellish family. Zeke replies that according to his grandfather they have always been poor. 666 says that it must be because they did not work enough. The boy does not contradict the master and agrees that it must be because of that, but he also thinks it has to do with the low social ranking of his family. The protagonist is surprised and asks if they do any tests to find this out. Zeke says yes and explains how it works. The protagonist says that what they are planning to do today is far from heroic. Then he asks if Zeke is okay with this since he is a hero. The boy takes a deep breath and says that he knows this is a crime, but he doesn't care because he realized something after he met the hero Solus. Personally, in his view the protagonist is a much fairer hero than Solus. Maybe to other people they look like a bunch of thieves now, but in fact they are preventing the criminals from breaking the agreement with the dragons. The protagonist is surprised by Zeke's innocent sight. He decides not to break his magic and says that's exactly it. Zeke says that he admires 666 for other things too. When they met the Demon King promised that he could make him a hero. Since then he feels much happier and more fulfilled. All his effort was worth it and he even got an incredible shield. Zeke adds that all this is thanks to his master. He doesn't care what he does as long as his younger brothers manage to live well. So he wants to ensure their future. Zeke also says that his brothers will not be old enough to fight on the front line against the Demon King, but he will make it so that they can at least participate in the rear guard. so they will put a portrait like the one in Sola's house to prove that his family participated in the battle against the reincarnation of the Demon King. The protagonist listens from start to finish the boy's dream and realizes that he did not include himself at any time, then asks if he will not participate in the battle. Zeke replies that his real desire has nothing to do with eliminating the Demon King. His biggest dream is to end poverty in his family and save enough money for the next generation. He confesses that he would even be able to make a deal with the devil for that. The protagonist laughs at this and says it's great. At that moment Alex opens a portal and appears among the boys. He says that he discovered the secret room of those idiots, then tells them to hurry. The protagonist happily asks if he really found it. Alex confirms that he did and adds that he found a notebook with the list of the clan members. Zeke is surprised when Alex exposes 76 families involved in the dragon attack. They are all families with a history of great prestige. Zeke is again disappointed to realize that several families he saw in the hero books are not as fair as they seem. Now the Demon King wants to know where they hid the dragons. Alex says that they hid it underwater, exactly as the protagonist imagined. 666 knew that his thinking was not wrong. He uses magic to create some air bubbles that help with breathing underwater. After that Alex and 666 jump into the water. Zeke was kind of anxious to jump into the lake, but as he was alone he saw no other option but to do so. He is happy when he realizes that his air bubble works perfectly. At that moment the boy comes across several dragons. He tries to follow the protagonist and Alex, but he can't take his eyes off the dragons. Alex explains to 666 that he found some records in the notebook that says that the nobles collect the scales. Then the healers heal the dragons and collect their scales again. This place is practically a living dragon scale factory. The worst thing is that they have been doing this for 230 years. Alex points to the oldest dragon that is imprisoned here. Zeke gets more and more annoyed with the heroes he has always admired. Alex is not surprised by human evil and says that maybe they are doing it because their god does not intervene. The protagonist replies that this would explain why they are using those strange parasites to manipulate the dragon's consciousness. Alex agrees and says that they should hurry. The servant takes evidence and swims again to the surface, but halfway through he realizes that the protagonist is not following him. Alex asks if there is something wrong and the Demon King replies that this does not please him. Suddenly 666 removes all the chains that were holding a dragon. At that moment the protagonist goes crazy and starts to break the chains of all the other dragons. Alex knew that the situation was very good and that the protagonist would do something. The dragons take the opportunity to flee. The soldiers outside are frightened by the scene. They realize that something went wrong when several dragons started to come out of the lake. The men soon shouted that the monsters had escaped. At the same moment the dragons start spitting fire all over the castle. The attack intensifies. Meanwhile the protagonist and his group leave the lake as if nothing had happened. Alex is angry that the Demon King frees the dragons without a plan beforehand. The protagonist justifies his actions by saying that he had a sudden fit of rage. Alex replies that he never takes responsibility for his own mistakes and the two start fighting. Meanwhile Zeke stares at the attack that the dragons are making. He remembers that the protagonist promised that they would do it secretly. The duo continues fighting. At that moment several appear at the top of the castle and ask what they did. He quickly recognizes the protagonist by his hair. His father appears behind and shouts that the castle is destroyed. His eyes fall on Zeke and he asks if that is the masked hero. The protagonist notices the presence of several and says that this time he will end his life if he approaches again. On the other hand the hero Solus tells Zeke that he was waiting for him. The boy screams desperately. The father and son wanted to end the protagonist's group, but now they had bigger problems. The two try to catch the dragons that escaped. The protagonist raises his hand while saying that everything is calm. Alex suggests that they run away while everything is chaotic. The protagonist agrees. After that day, the Hellish family had major financial problems, but the public did not learn about their attacks on the dragons. The scene changes to some time later. Zeke wakes up and realizes that he is late for work. He runs to the gun shop as soon as possible, but when he gets there he finds a line of warriors who have come to forge their weapons. Zeke apologizes for the delay and thanks everyone for their presence at the gun shop. The warriors enter and are soon attended. They came to forge swords and buy other weapons. Alex began to meet some girls. He tells the woman with red hair that the magic staff matches the color of the cloak she is wearing it. The protagonist observes the effort of his friends and is happy because everything is going according to plan.